Big up Spurs fans near and far, back with another show with your boy Deji Spurs and my boys Zeus and Arthur in the building. We are going to be chopping up a few things today. Obviously, we're going to be chopping up latest information about our club, but also we're going to be looking at the England lineup. And that Southgate, I have to say officially, he's a madman. And we're going to be talking about Man City and the fact that they got the bloody cheek to take on. I think we just got to get in with the England team. And I was just saying just before we came live that there is not one single Spurs player in this England team. And what is Southgate doing? How can we have an England team that doesn't have any current Spurs players? I say current because, in my opinion, by the end of this summer, Eze and Ivan Toney will be Spurs players. But in the interim, they're not Spurs players yet. So, over to you, Arthur. We don't have... I do think, looking at that team, though, before, let me just set some context. I see that they basically said that they offered James Maddison the opportunity to play the friendly on Friday, so tomorrow. And he went, thanks, but no thanks, I'm going home. And he basically walked out the camp. Now, big up to James Maddison for doing that because he's no Timo Werner. Timo Werner, who clearly can tell that my club doesn't want anything to do with him. That's why we extended his loan contract. There shaking his bum. He should have been saying, sign me or let me go. Do you know what I mean? Now, Madders, for me, big up to Madders for that because I'm looking at that midfield and there's two brothers that I will say don't deserve to be there. Now, Alan Westaway, who's a good friend of mine and Arthur's, will argue and shake his bum violently for Adam Wharton. But you've got Trent in the midfield, Conor Gallagher, Kobe Mainoo, Declan Rice, and Adam Wharton. Is Southgate mad? How does Maddison not get into this midfield? Kobe Mainoo is a under-21 international. Conor Gallagher is dustier than Tutankhamun's coffin. And Adam Wharton could be playing for the under-18s. What is this brother doing? I mean, I know he wants the Man U job, but this right here is taking the piss. Madders, I'm on your side. That is a piss take. Southgate needs to refrain from that. Arthur, are you in agreement? Here in that midfield, and then we hear from Zeus. Is Gareth Southgate taking the piss with our guy, Maddison?
Sorry to disappoint you, Desh, but no, I don't agree with you, I'm afraid. I don't think he should have gone. And I don't think he should. Look, I love James Maddison. I'm going to come at it from a couple of points, right? First of all, I'm much more Tottenham centric than I am England centric, right? So I whenever I look at this, I think about what impact it has on our club and next season. He wasn't going to get any game time. Like he wasn't going to. I don't think the position that he's in. He's a number 10. You're not going to be bringing him on to be like a deep lying, spreading the ball kind of player. So there are players that are on form, and if there's one complaint I've had over the years about England managers is that they don't pick players on form; they pick players on name. Which is why we've had trying to fit players into a team when trying to fit Lampard and Gerrard into team for ages because they're great players, but they weren't working for the team. That was to the detriment of England. So if you care about England, then I want the manager to pick players on form. So if we're really, really honest, as much as it galls us to say so, had this squad been picked after the first 10, 11 games of the season, he would have been the starting 11, right? But that isn't what's happened for the rest of the season for various reasons, some of which is not self-inflicted. But I also think that he also, when he came back from injury, there felt a little bit like he was frustrated with the way the season had gone without him being in the team, which is perfectly reasonable. But I felt a little bit that was coming, that was showing in his demeanour, which I don't think is ideal. So I was a bit frustrated with Madders actually for the second half of the season. Yeah. I love him. I'd have him our starting 11. He's brilliant. He's a game changer. You know, he was amazing at the beginning of the season, and he'll be amazing again next season. But if I take my Spurs hat off, and I know this is a Spurs chat, but we're talking about England now. If I take my Spurs hat off, I don't pick him ahead of Cole Palmer. I don't pick him ahead of Jude Bellingham, which I think is where Jude Bellingham is likely to play because he plays so well for Real Madrid as a number 10. I wouldn't pick him ahead of Phil Foden drifting into that middle. Quite possibly for a game changer coming off the bench at the moment, I'd bring Eze off the bench because of his ability to beat a man. Then I would bring Maddison off the bench. So thinking about how much game time he is likely to have at a tournament, probably not that much, but yet he would still be working and he wouldn't be getting a rest. He wouldn't be getting a break. I'm much happier him having to deal with the disappointment. And he said in his post afterwards, his statement afterwards, he said, if I'm honest with myself, my form at Spurs after coming back from injury wasn't at the levels that I wanted them to be. And that's an honest assessment of where it's at. And I think I would much rather a squad going to the tournament in form, feeling positive vibes, and I'd much rather Maddison has a proper summer break and you know is fit and ready for us and goes out to prove a point next season as to why you know perhaps he should have been picked. I don't have any problem with Wharton being in the squad. That's the sort of thing that excites me because again, like, he's not going to be starting games, but if you're building a team that is going to stay together and compete at a high level at multiple tournaments, I think you have to be bringing in. You have to have space for some of those young players each squad because they have to learn. You know, they have to learn how it goes. They have to learn how to deal with the disappointment of losing penalties in the semi-finals. There's every chance that will happen again. And we have to think about the bigger picture for England, which I think lots of criticisms for Gareth Southgate for various things, and that's perfectly reasonable. But I think he's quite good at removing his ego and thinking about England as a bigger picture, like the grassroots level, how what the training is going, how we're bringing up the under-21s. He's quite good at that rather than making it about himself. I've had a lot of international managers that make it all about themselves, and it hasn't worked out. So I have no problem with someone like Adam Wharton going because I think as a young player, he'll be positive. He'll be surrounded by experienced players. He can actually play as a deep line midfielder right in the middle of the park or further up. I'm not for 1 second saying he is a better player than Maddison, but at the moment with that squad and options, I think for England going forward, it's more progressive to take a player like that with potential than to take a player that's had a poor second half of the season and who is unlikely to actually play. That's my feeling about it, to be honest. So that's why
I mean, I was just disappointed that this is probably the first time that I can remember there isn't a single Spurs fan in the England team, and for me that's quite a damage.
There is one massive Spurs fan in the England team. That's Harry Kane. There just isn't one.
Well, I mean, Harry Kane is for me he's still a Spurs player. He's just a Spurs player playing in Europe, maybe if you want to count it that way. You know what I mean? He loves our club, but Zeus.
But that's on us, though, isn't it? Just jump in. That's not on Gareth Southgate, is it? That's on us. What are we doing? How are our English players doing in our team? Yeah. Who's the best? Aside from Maddison, who's the best English player in our team?
It's just Maddison. There is no one else. Yeah, that is shocking.
That's not in England, man. You can't go. They're not going to pick Oliver Skip, are they? As much as I like Oliver Skip, that's something we need to be looking at if going forward as a club. Yeah, no, I agree totally.
Zeus, your comments. No, not one Spurs player, maybe the only Spurs player that we could have offered to England. Your view, I know you're from the 6th Canadian, but from the outside looking in, is that a damning indictment on our club?
First of all, I want to say it's definitely not coming home based on this lineup. Lewis Dunk is probably going to be the starting center back like that. I don't know, man. Nah. Mbappe is, those guys are going to have a field day. But right though, I mean, the lack of Spurs players on there is a bit shocking, I guess. There were times where it would be like 4 or 5 guys. Like you have Kyle Walker, Aaron Lennon, even Genius. 4, 5, 6 maybe kind of Spurs players. But now I think maybe that's kind of going to Crystal Palace right now. I see there's quite a lot of Palace representatives there. And I think some of that is Glasner, right? Like that's literally Glasner making these players look like, world beaters. Because I don't know, man, unless Adam Wharton has kind of been like somebody that they've been watching for a long time. Like I've never heard of this guy. Like I have no idea.
He's only come in the last 10 games of the season.
He's a kid, but is
he highly rated? Was he highly rated? Okay, maybe. But him, Kobe Mainu, to me, that is like Manchester United PR at work. If he played on any other club, he wouldn't be getting kind of like the accolades that he's gotten, right? Like it's kind of like I don't know, going back, you guys remember Makeda that played for United and scored like a last minute goal and everybody thought it was going to be the greatest thing, and his career pretty much tanked. But Matters, I think he said something like he was working his way back into game form. Like obviously injury came back, and he said he said the end of the season came too early for him. That's to quote him. But even though, right, he just didn't look like the first 10 games, like it was like this guy's player of the season, signing of the season, and he didn't come close to replicating that form at all. So I think that's just what it is. The disparity of performances just means, you're not going to get ahead of Bellingham and Cole Palmer. Do England play? Is it a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1?
I think it's more like a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah. He has also done 3 at the back, which is something he still pulls out every now and again.
Yeah, I mean,
play at the right sided of the back 3, and then Trent down them. Right.
Yeah, Arthur said it pretty much right. Like it's going to be hard to get ahead of those guys. Like maybe there could have been a scenario where maybe England is through after 2 games, and then the third game you want to try something different. Maddison starts ahead of those guys just so they can rest for the next game, but he's not top choice, right? Going into the season. So I think it's fair. But I don't know if you guys saw what Neil Maupay posted.
Yeah, he posted the darts, isn't it? What was that all about?
That's harsh.
But you don't remember the game in the season?
Yeah, I remember the game.
Yeah, he took his celebration, and then Madders did it to him afterwards. He's just been a dick.
Yeah.
I mean, if I see Neil Maupay at the bloody petrol station, mate, he's getting fly kicked in the back of his head. That's what he's getting at.
Yeah, that's like I can understand. Yeah, sorry, I can understand the same game, like, but this is just, like this is a bit. I don't know if irresponsible is a word. This is like dick. This is being a dick, right? Like
he's being a full-on dick, mate. Neil Maupay, no, we're coming for you. You can't even get in the French squad about shaking your bum there, about throwing darts. Shut your gums, hush your mouth. We are supporting our guy Madders in the building. And a big up to everyone that's locked on. Anthony Clark, Renault, has said, bro, do you recommend live streams for channel growth? I do. Get on there, do your live streams, get people, you get anyone joining in. And I also recommend collabs. So make sure you're collabing. If you ain't collabing, then you ain't planning. I hope that made sense. But whatever. And Kozi, big up to you. Big up to Abdi in the building. AFC is always around. Jaron Woods, Anthony Clark. Big up to everyone that's locked on. Look, we will watch. Look, based on what you guys have said, you're probably right. I just felt that if England wanted to do anything serious, maybe experience, those are a lot of unknowns. But then at the same time, Arthur, you make a very good point about giving these younger players a taste. I just think when you look at the likes of France and what they possessed, when you look at the Spanish team, do you know what I mean? That squad ain't going to do nothing. I don't even think that squad can beat the Netherlands. Do you know what I'm saying? And for me, just a little bit like Spurs. Someone said that England is quite Spursy. Anthony Clark with his little cheeky self. But yes, we've not won a bloody trophy since 1966 as an international, and our club won the league in 1961. Ha! Yeah, man, that's a decade. So I need to see England do well, because maybe we'll see our club do well in picking up trophies there. But big up everyone locked on. Look, let's move on swiftly. Man City, because I don't want to take too long today, Man City have the audacity to come out and say they're going to take the Premier League to court. Now, a little birdie told me that Man City were planning to kick the can down the road because what they were going to do is make sure that the limitation period was run through so that the Premier League cannot take them any longer and all those 115 charges will be dropped. So the first question I have for you both is, has Man City turned the Prem into a farmers league? Because let's be real, that was the dustiest Man City team that we've seen in the last 4 seasons, and yet they still won. The likelihood is that they're going to probably win and do the 5p. And if they do the 5p, they've literally turned the Prem to the Bundesliga. But is there something about money, the money in the game, where money rules, and we know that because that's why Chelsea came to the party. But also now, the audacity of one club to take on the whole league. That I think for me, that's a royal piss take. And for me, I feel like Man City is spoiling the game. I'm not jealous. Do you know what I mean? If our club had got that level of investment and the level of success that Man City have had in the last 10 years, I would be shaking my bum violently. But in the back of my head, I'll be saying, this is drug money. No, just kidding. But this is some sort of money that's we've kind of bought this success. I just want to know, guys, is Man City ruining the game for us? And that's more ways than one.
I'll say, yeah. Like, I know it's, legal mumbo jumbo, and this is the best way to avoid the 115, but it's like literally they're taking on the league. Like, we are, you know what I mean? Like, we're in this tournament together, but we are going to fight you, right? Like, it's kind of like playing God in a way, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know, it's just the audacity of it, right? Like, okay, yeah, there's the blood money or drug money, whatever you want to call it, but they're still going through the process of playing and all that stuff. Now this is just like ridiculous, like disrespecting all the other teams. I don't know how things are behind closed doors, but I would assume that they're not. It's just them, right, on one side of things, and it's just sad to see that we're getting away from football, like the actual, the best product on the pitch kind of thing. There's all these other things happening in the background that are, I don't know, just like, I think if you're on the fence of following soccer or whatnot, or an American, right, you just be like, ugh, so this is what's happening. These guys are going against the entire league because they did something wrong, because they obviously did something wrong, and you wouldn't, as like a neutral fan, someone who's interested in sports in general, it muddies things a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Arthur, what's your thoughts, man? What's your thoughts? They're moving like the cartel, to be honest.
I think
cartel.
I think it's a significant problem that poses greater risks than the European Super League, personally. So, like, just to people probably already know what it's about, but just to clarify that what they're doing, that the suing of the Premier League is not in reality related to the 115 charges, right? So but obviously what they're doing is they're using they're exerting their muscles, right? They're exerting their power. So what they're suing the Premier League about is there are regulations whenever commercial partners come in and sign commercial deals with a football club. The deal has to be looked over by an independent regulator who says, yes, that's a fair amount of money for that deal. So, for example, if a club, if a company comes in and says, I want to sponsor Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and I'm going to give them £500 million a year, the independent regulator will say that's way more than market value. So something dodgy is going on here, right?
Yeah.
That thing exists, and that's what they're suing against. They are saying that to put in that restriction, that regulation, is to impede their ability in the open free market, right?
Yeah.
The 115 charges are about their costs, how they're keeping costs down and whether they're overspending. They're connected in the sense that it's just a very, 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 very wealthy club that is owned by a country, by the way. It's owned by a state. And that is what the problem is here, because you can't have the whole football ecosystem depends on rules and regulations, right? The whole structure of the system is about rules. It's about what you can do, what you can't do, in order to protect the integrity of the game, to make sure grassroots football is alive and kicking, to make sure clubs don't go into administration easily, to make sure fans don't get ripped off, all that kind of stuff. These are all regulations that exist in any industry with any large organizations and this much money. And what you have is a club that is run by a state that literally sets its own rules. So they're coming up, they're coming in and going, no, that doesn't suit us, doesn't work for us. We set our own rules. They own something like 9%. That country owns something like 9% of the global oil wealth. This is extraordinary amount of money and an extraordinary amount of power, and the issue amongst like many things is that you end up having this, I don't know, this, what's it called? Not the homogeneous, this kind of like concentrated power with a small number of clubs. And there's nothing, you can't have a sporting body regulating a club that is owned by a country, and that country has political relationships to the country that the sporting body is in. Do you know what I mean? So like, when are the government going to step in? Are the government going to step in and say, you can't do that to that state? So it's the United Arab Emirates. You can't do that when they've got a very important, tightly wound political connection there. So suddenly this all becomes about fucking politics, and it's something that I think we as fans, I want to just be a football fan, but I also feel like as a moderately intelligent, that's all I'll go for. As a moderately intelligent football fan, I have it.
Intelligent football fan, mate. Don't downplay yourself.
Moderately intelligent football fan. I have it within my power to educate myself about the impact of this sort of stuff, and it is much bigger than football. And I really want fans in general of all football clubs to really be like wary about what they wish for in terms of investment in their club. To really be wary about going, oh, why don't they just? It's this classic Spurs fan. It's like, oh, that club wants 40 million for that player. Let's just give it him. We want more, we want more, we want more, and we don't ever think about where that fucking money is coming from. There is a point if we're going down that route, if we engage in that game, there is a point that we will end up having to be owned by a very, very wealthy organization, like a country, like a state. The only other club in this country that's owned by a state is Newcastle. And they wrote a letter of support. They're not engaging with the suing, but they've written a letter of support around the idea of it. They're sitting back and going, I'm going to see how this works out. So they're not fully innocent in this, but they don't have the power that Man City have. So we have two.
This letter of support, like you're supporting
Man City. Yeah, they've submitted a letter of support for Man City in what they're pursuing, which is essentially they.
You know why though?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they're owned by a state, because they want the same fucking thing. Because they want
to do the same thing.
Of course, and that's exactly what's happening. And I think we've got to be careful because, well, I'd say it here, and it would break my heart, but I genuinely would struggle to stay engaged with my football club if it got bought out by a state like that. I genuinely would struggle with it. I'm not judging other fans, and that's not a judgment. This is my own thing. I'm not saying Man City fans should not support their club, or Newcastle fans should not. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just talking about my own personal opinion. Is that I don't want to watch my club. I wouldn't want to watch my club get entangled in this thing, which becomes all about power and not about competition. I don't want. Obviously, I never want to see my club relegated, but I also don't want to watch a league or a competition where it is impossible for my club to get relegated. I mean, what are the stakes? What are the stakes? I think it's a bigger risk to Premier League and therefore football as a whole than European Super League, because I think it's going to be harder if they find some legal loophole which says actually the Premier League are restricting their rights of access to the free market and that's illegal. If they find that loophole, it's through the back door. Suddenly we've lost control. We would have ceded control of our game to a country in the Middle East.
Yeah,
like to me that's astonishing. It's mad, and I hate it.
And you know, thank you for articulating that, Arthur, because it's something that's been kind of bothering me, and it's been bothering me for a while. Because you look at Man City and you look at Man City's dominance, you see City fans shaking their bum violently, and I just look at them and I feel like you don't even deserve to be there. You've been state back. That could have been Oldham Athletic. That could have been bloody Salford. That could have been Portsmouth for all we care. You've done nothing special to warrant what you've done in the last 10 years. You just so happen to be at the right place at the right time. That's it.
The only thing I would say, like, obviously, as much banter between like fans from one club to another about football is great. It's brilliant. I'm well up for that. But I also think we as fans on a bigger scale should actually. I'm pretty sure a lot of Man City fans don't like this. But you know, you like me, they don't choose their club. You know, the club chose me. This is in my family. I go to football because my old man, etc., etc. So I didn't, you know, I cannot suddenly. I feel like I can't suddenly choose to like not go watch Spurs anymore, and I don't want to do that. But I also can't. They're like in me. That's what it is. Yeah. And I know the struggle that I would have if my club was taken over like that. I also know. I remember. You remember, Dej, like the Man City went way down the pecking order. And when they got back, they went way down for ages. Remember, it's Joe Royle. I think Joe Royle was managing them when they went down. But they went down to the 3rd tier of the Football League, which was... Yeah. And then they came back up. And them coming back up to the Premier League was not when they had, like, massive ownership, massive money. When they were in the Premier League, then they had Thaksin Shinawatra, the Thai Prime Minister. Who bought them out. I had a really, really good Man City friend who, when that happened, he was not just a season ticket holder, an older guy. It's not just season ticket holder. He used to write for their fanzine. He was a journalist, a sports journalist, a Man City journalist, and he tore up his season ticket because of the human rights issues that were related to that prime minister at that time. So I know that there are fans that have that struggle, and it's not on them. That they are not the reason why their club has been sold or bought by these sort of organizations. So in some ways, absolutely, like, you know, people should be aware of where the money comes from, and people shaking their bum, as you would say, about how wonderful they are. You say, well, you know, it's fairly easy on one level to be wonderful when you own half the fucking world.
Yeah.
But those fans didn't choose that, and this was the issue of the European Super League. This is the issue of all these things. Is that actually most fans are like you and I and users who talk about their team, love their team, wish they could stop supporting them sometimes, but always crawl back, and, you know, have that love-hate relationship with the sport. And then something like that happens to their club, and I in some ways I have sympathy. I want to win with Tottenham, and I want to win with the ownership we have now. Not perfect at all, and I'm not saying they're not a bunch of fuckers as well, but just on a different level. Well, the ownership we have now and the manager we have now, a victory for us, even a fucking FA Cup, but certainly a league in the next 5 years, would be far sweeter for me than all of the trophies that Man City have won, where I'm at, knowing where that came from.
As we did it the right way.
Yeah.
I bloody agree with that. I bloody agree with that 100%, because we've done it from the ground up. Do you know what I mean? Just bear with me, and I'll big up to everyone locked in, locked on. I'm just seeing if Chris is about. Chris, if you're still there, man's gonna send you the link if you want to come through. Sorry for only just sending it to you now. So no, I think that's legit. I think that is really, really legit, and that's why I'm proud of what we've done. I mean, people say what they like about Daniel Levy, and I do agree, you know, he's a bit of a dick now and again, but I do like the way that Tottenham is trying to do things properly, and the Lutons of this world and all the other clubs that are trying to do things properly. But I just look back at Man City and the way some Man City fans shake their bum, and the way that they're disrespecting the Premier League. And the thing is, if Man City gets away with these charges, that's the end of the Prem, in my opinion. It's almost like you won't be able to take the Prem seriously after that. You know, and I talked about the fact that I think Saudi will become the new Prem very, very soon. And I had that conversation literally last summer, and people were shooting me down. But rest assured, this summer there's going to be a lot more Premier League players going over to the Saudi League, and it will be things like not dealing with City that will water and dilute the Prem, and then soon the Saudi League takes over. Mark my word.
We got to be careful on that as well, right? Because I've heard loads of people like talking about like last summer when people were selling players to Saudi and getting loads of money, and Chelsea was selling like you know shit players and for 50 million quid or whatever. And loads of people going, why can't typical Spurs? Why can't we flog our players to Saudi? Be careful what you wish for, man. Let's not do that. Like I'm just saying, you know, I know it's a business, but let's not do it. Let's not engage with that. Unless a player really wants to go, but I don't think many players do. It's just like, here's an opportunity, earn loads of money. Okay, fuck it, you don't want me. You know, don't sell Richarlison for 60 million quid to Saudi, even if they come offering him. I'd rather sell him for 40 million to an Italian club than 60 million to Saudi. Because where our money comes from is important. Like, it's important.
Sorry, just the kind of like players going over to Saudi and just chasing money blindly. Henderson, right, went over there and was like, "Holy!" I don't think he actually said why, but you know, he was "get me out of here" kind of thing, and he went all the way. He went to Ajax as soon as he could.
And he didn't earn any money.
Oh yeah.
He rescinded all of his money because he went there and he realized, He didn't complete his contract. He didn't complete his minimum term. He didn't get paid.
Oh, fair. Oh, so he missed out on 750 grand a week. Yeah. That's absolutely madness. Big up to Chris.
I would have stayed.
Meta football in the building. Chris, forgive me, but thank you for joining on. Big up to you. Big up to my dog, VJ, aka Mr. Consistent, always sending in them super chats. Thank you very much. Big up, big up, big up. Look, Chris, you've come in at perfect timing. We've dealt with the fact that there isn't a single Spurs player in that England team. I'm not going to lie. I will be covering the Euros. I don't give a damn what England do, since there is not one. Well, we've got a Spurs fan as Arthur Pullet in Harry Kane. And the one thing I will say is we've got future Spurs players in Eze and Ivan Toney, in my opinion. But hey, we'll get into that shortly. Let's deal with what we've been seeing in the transfer window. I don't know what I think all of us have been picking up stories from different places. Yesterday, somebody was throwing at me Guy Queiroz, the Sporting Lisbon striker, really shaking their bum violently for him. I've been shaking my bum violently for Eze. I've been shaking my bum violently for Tony. In terms of what you've been hearing, Chris, and what you think Spurs needs to do, and maybe we'll touch on, because I don't think we've all spoke about this. Maybe quickly, let's talk on. We'll talk about that after, actually. What you're seeing from our club, the players that we've been linked with, Isak, namely. Are you happy with the kind of murmurings? Because I'm not going to lie to you. When we bloody extended Timo Werner's contract, I almost broke the laptop that I'm streaming from right here, right now. When I bloody almost threw the bloody my little iPhone at my own forehead because I was so disgusted with seeing what they did. But Chris, let us know in terms of the links and what you're thinking. Are we heading in the right direction?
I don't really want to answer your question, but thank you. First of all, big up to SUES, big up to our phone, big up to yourself. Thank you for having me on, and big up to the chat, everyone that's watching. Listen, Gyökeres, I like Gyökeres from when he was at Coventry. I thought the geezer was, man, wow, such class, and he's trying like a one-man team on his own. Such class, such skill, putting the balls away on his own. And when you find out he's gone to Sporting Lisbon, you think, man, this guy's got to be special, and he's proving that he's special. It's not like a one season wonder. He's doing the business, and to be linked with Spurs, or I don't know if he's directly linked, but you know what the media does, man. I'd have him in a heartbeat. I'm not sure if that's going to be. Something that's going to, we're going to pursue.
But what do you think he's worth?
See him.
What do you think he's worth? People threw some stuff at me yesterday in terms of figures. Because I haven't seen him. How good is he? What would he be worth in your opinion?
80, 85. That's what I've been looking. Yeah, because obviously I'm interested in. I look at a lot of players. I love, for us, and for a few months ago he was about 85 million euros, which is what 70 odd million, like high 70s, whatever that conversion rate would be. hefty price, but you've got a great player there. But it's all good and well, getting them in, you've got to know how to use them properly. But yeah, if we're talking about your bog standard, appearances and what he does on the field and what he's been doing for Sporting Lisbon, then if he functions, as I said before, he's an amazing player. He's very versatile. He can drop deep. He's good. He associates well with his players. He's a good header of the ball. He creates goals out of nothing, which is basically what we've been lacking. Because obviously we haven't had that number 9 day in, day out. Unfortunately, Sonny has not been the number 9, and he's not a number 9. But we've been too heavily reliant on that. So Richie's been injured. He's had a decent season, Richie had, but a bit lackluster from all over the park, really. Eze, bring him in. Just why are we fluffing about? Price wise, is it going to be done? Will he get done? I don't know, but yeah, he's brilliant. No problem whatsoever. Left wing, number 10. Yeah, put him on the right if you have to. Put him on the skywalk. Just to have him there. He will just bolster the whole atmosphere at the club. Just bring Eze in. I don't care. 60 mil, just put it down, man. Lay it down. And whatever bill, if it's a £5, £20, £10, lay him out. I don't care. 20p coins, just give him the money. I mean, he's just a brilliant player, And then yesterday was it that we were talking about Ito from Stuttgart, the Japanese guy, centre back, left. Yeah, I covered him last year because he was apparently he was on the radar as well. I kind of covered him on the channel, which was a pleasant surprise because Ange was going down his Asian roots, his like kind of expertise, and that didn't materialize for whatever reason, but that could have been paper talk. But if he's coming up again, then that could be an interesting one. So yeah, I mean, and then there's the other ones, Morgan Gibbs White, and then you got your Hudson Odois. I don't know, but Werner, I know you love Werner. So yeah, squad depth. I've got nothing against it. I really haven't. I'm not pro or I'm not against. I just think that he's had for 4 or 5 months, whatever he's had, right? But I think he's just got an edge over someone else that has to come in, that has to learn it. That's all I'm saying. I know you're saying no, and you're entitled to it. It's your show, and keep me off if you want. But I just think that he can. I think that he's able to do it, and that's just my opinion. I know I'm half blind, and that could be my detriment. But I just think that give him another chance.
You're too nice. As for me, I know Tim Werner's watching this show. If you're watching it, I'll feed it in. You
learned that. You learned that just for this show, didn't you?
Literally just for this show, mate. I'll feed the day, mate. Get out, mate. Bye. Zeus, Chris, now big up to you. Look, I love what you're saying. If this guy, Gutierrez, is what you say he is. I mean, the only thing I would say, I'm always quite scared of players coming from the Portuguese league. Pedro Porro is probably the only one in recent time that made that move. But I'm looking at Benfica, the 2 players that came from Benfica to the Prem, Enzo and Nunes. And they've done absolutely nothing. And so do you think this guy has the quality to come to the Prem and hit the ground running? Because for 85 mil, you're basically saying you're guaranteeing us 20 plus goals. That's what you're saying this player is going to bring to our club. And I'm not so sure. It's a gamble. It would be a massive gamble, a financial. I mean, if it was 85 mil on Kane, you know what you're getting. But I just think 85 mil on this player, I think you'd have to bring it down to 60 mil for it to make sense. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. But yeah, I don't know if you've got a rebuttal before I bring Zeus and then Arthur.
Is that for Zeus?
No,
is that for me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Listen, he's done it although it might be Coventry, but he's done it in England. I mean, yeah, okay, it might be Coventry, as I said before, but he knows England, right? And he's not coming as a Portuguese player from Portugal, with all due respect. And obviously Enzo Fernandez came at 120 million or something like that. I don't know whether, I think it was 120 million, but that's just stupid money. And we've got other examples that came to Spurs. There's Jedson Fernandez, who came on loan, right? Who did nothing, was circumstantial, absolutely nothing. But to cite Kane, for example, you would pay 85 million now, but we know how good he is, right? So that's a bit. You're just being cheeky, man. You're being a bit cheeky, because you know what you'd pay for something you already know that functions, right?
Yeah.
But this guy is quite kind of like a. I'm not going to say he's Kane, but because I think he's 25, 26. But I think you're looking at 60 for Eze. You wouldn't be you're looking for a bit more for Gyökeres, because you're paying it for a specialist, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like if you're looking at 50, 60, which is what Brentford are asking for Tony, who is 28 going on 29.
Hell no. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If you're looking at market, if you're looking at valuation, you're looking at 25, 26-year-old that scores you a hell of a lot of goals and assists, right? It's not just a guy that puts the ball in the back of the net, right? Then he offers much more, because if you're just looking at him banging in 25 and that's it, I don't think that's the player that Ange wants. I think that he can bang him in and provide for others too. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I would pay the extra. You know what I mean? The extra value for someone that can do it as well for others to create and to, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't have any qualms in paying. And if we want to be serious, if we want to do something more and offer that bit more to the fans and to challenge, really, like seriously, go out and spend the money. You've got it, right? And that's what I would do. I wouldn't just go and pay, 40 million just for the sake of being tight-fisted. That we need that quality. We need to pay that extra, in my opinion.
Fair.
Jimenez from Feyenoord is another guy, different, but
Fair. No, I like that. Big up to you, Chris. Zeus, and then Arthur will give us his final take before he has to leave us.
Sure. John Laushen's comment. I don't even think Werner's a fan of himself. That cracked me up. That killed me. I don't know why people are hating him, because Werner, I think they brought him in to sort of create. We knew he wasn't a great finisher. 10 goal contributions, goals and assists in 20 games, something like that.
I could have done that.
Nah, I don't know if you could. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it if he's a squad player, like not to start, right? So still waiting on, or to be linked to like a specialist left winger type. Like I want to hear like Spurs are bidding for Cravadon, or I don't know how to say his name, the Napoli left winger guy.
Oh yeah, I like him.
I want to hear. Yeah, him. I want to hear that kind of link. That's what I want to hear. I haven't heard any of those. I've heard Dominic Solanke.
Hell no.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. For 65, I think he has a release clause for 65. Is he better than Richarlison? I'm not sure. But like I said, for me, the priority is not striker or anything. We can upgrade Richarlison, sure. But I haven't heard any crystal clear left wing, which is why I think, like I said, we need a superstar there. I guess Eze can play there to some degree. Yes. Yeah. No?
Yes, on the left there.
Okay, you could play there. I've seen some of those. I don't know, man. I want us to do the blockbuster Cravadonna type. If Eze comes, not bad. Like I guess 60, 70, what I'm seeing here, that would be good. But yeah, we should get that done. Like no qualms. Like that should just be like, here's some of the Harry Kane money. Here's the our big quote unquote Declan Rice VVD type signing. Let's go and get this guy. That should just be done ASAP. Yeah, other one I've been hearing a lot is Conor Gallagher.
Hell no.
I've been seeing it a lot, like very, very strong. I don't know, like the priority positions for me were a midfield like 6 destroyer type and a left winger. And Gallagher is like a center mid. He could do it, but I want a specialist in that position. Like, is he better than what we have there now? Bissouma, Sarr. all those guys.
Is he better than Skip?
I'm sure he's better than Skip. He's better than Skip. To be fair, when he was at Palace the season before, he was everything. He was scoring. I'm sure he was playing a bit higher up the pitch, but he was really balling back then. So he can do a lot of things, but I still don't think he's a specialist 6, which is priority position to allow some of the other guys to really ball. So a bit quote unquote disappointed in these specialists that haven't been linked. They're good players, but I don't think they would. I just want specialists in those positions. That would make me very excited for the new season. So still waiting on that.
Yeah. Big up. I just to say the thing that keeps me up at night, and I haven't slept since I've heard the Conor Gallagher link, is the fact that Tottenham could have a starting 11 at some stage in the season that has both Timo Werner and Conor Gallagher. Oh my days! Relegation fodder. Imagine Timo Werner and Conor Gallagher starting in the same 11. Can you imagine that? Crikey. No disrespect, Conor Gallagher. If you want to take it to the streets, let's go to the streets. 1v1. I don't mind. Do you get me? But hell no! Am I going to be watching Werner and CJ or CG in my team's 11? Hell no. But Arthur, you've been sitting there poker-faced. And when you're poker-faced, I can tell that you're about to drop a bombshell. I appreciate you. I love you as a brother. There is no way you're about to tell us that you're quite happy with Timo Werner, the signing of Werner. And I'm not hearing it from you about Conor Gallagher, but off you go.
I should probably just stay silent then, I guess. No, I'm pulling your leg. Look, if I don't fully get the total hate of Timo Werner, to be honest. I find it's all about degrees, right? Okay. He is not the player that I want to be seeing in my starting 11 week in, week out. He's not the player that I think will on his own, nor no one player on their own will, but I don't think he's one of the core group of players that will, by virtue of having him, take us to another level. But that is not what squads are made of. Squads are not made of 80 individual £80 million players who are all, top of their game, or it just doesn't work like that. And squads aren't built like that. And the reality is that we've released, even though we let him go earlier, but Perisic, Brian Hill is going to go. Man of Solomon, who knows what's going to happen with him, or what Ange actually thinks about him. Okay, we don't know. But these are most likely, most likely. And we've had some problems down on that side. Like Sonny is, for me, on form, is obviously still a starter, but he won't be forever. And and also we've got a lot more games next season. We're definitely playing, a number of games in Europe, even if we don't get out the group stage of the Europa League, which I'm sure we will. But even if we didn't, we still got a handful of games for our early doors in the season. And here, what we've done here is got another player for a year when all we're doing is paying his wages. It makes total and utter sense for me. It takes the pressure off a number of things. It takes the pressure off us in terms of allowing some youngsters to come through. So you don't, if when we get our first choice, marquee left winger, which I'm sure we will get, and we've got Son who can play through the middle and on the left, then Timo Werner might be used sparingly, right? So if we didn't have Timo Werner, but we got our marquee left winger, and Son was playing through the middle because Richarlison was injured or out of form, and then one of them, and then our marquee left winger got injured, we'd be looking at youngsters. We'd be looking at players of potential that we want to be able to bring in steadily and with what's the right word, with consideration into the squad, rather than a desperate ploy to try and hold up our season. Look what happened during last season when we had all those injuries. Players performed, they did well, and everyone was really proud of them. But overall, we were massively impacted by the size of our squad. Someone like Timo Werner costs us nothing but wages. Exactly what Zeus says. He was not ineffective, man. He was not ineffective. He is not my dream player, and he's not. if someone said to me, Timo Werner or a marquee left winger, obviously I get a marquee left winger, but that is not what's happening. We are not bringing him in so that we don't buy another player. We're bringing in a 27-year-old with experience who has crazy pace, who came in January.
European champion too.
He came in exactly. Well, and he came in January, but he came in January without a preseason, and he's still we don't. It doesn't matter what when we look at him and go, oh God, it's Timo Werner, or he misses an open goal or whatever. You can't. What we need is basic stats showing that we're making progress. Here is a player that put in more crosses, and his crossing is not bad. His crossing is not bad. We've had some pretty bad crosses of the ball. We've had some players who've been brilliant at getting into position, but not good at crossing that ball. And their final decision making has been poor. He put in more crosses than any other player in the Premier League from the moment he arrived to the end of the season. And he had some injuries. He put in more balls into the box. If we sort out our striker in the middle and we're 65, 70 minutes into a match and we're struggling to break someone down, you put on someone like Timo Werner to do a 20-minute job of running a right back ragged and getting the ball in the box, and we've got a striker who can actually finish, he will be impactful. He will. And then we've got him for just his wages. And we also, even if we wanted to buy him, the reason why we're not buying him this year is because we're smart, because we want to spend other money this year. If we spend 15 million quid on him this year, then that brings down how much we can spend on other players. And we kick it into the long grass. If he has a great season next year, he's 8 million quid. We buy him, we can sell him for 30 million next year. And if he doesn't have a great season, he's still going to be someone with experience making up numbers in a season where we're going to be playing more games than we were playing, and our squad are not used to it. To me, it is just a business smart squad decision. The same sort of decision as to why Postecoglou will probably may well keep hold of Ben Davies, because actually you need players like that in the squad who are, I'm not comparing them, but I wouldn't want Ben Davies to start, and I wouldn't want him to be our immediate left-sided backup. But he's calm, he's measured, he's clearly intelligent, and we all know about leadership and about culture and stuff. If we've got a whole host of young players who are getting big heads because they're doing well, or they're dropping their heads because they're having a bad time, we need leaders. We need people in the camp like Ben Davies. So for me, someone like Ben Davies makes sense to keep hold of him. Someone like Timo Werner makes sense because if only every 3 games he gets 20 minutes and creates a goal, that could be the difference between 1 or 2 places in the league. So I don't love him. I don't want to see him in our starting 11 regularly, but it does not offend me in any way that we have taken him on loan for another year. It just seems, the fact that it was even an option, it seems mad to me that we wouldn't take it. What's to lose, right? What's to lose? We've got a squad to build, and he's got experience. I don't want to see Conor Gallagher. I don't think we'll see Conor Gallagher, and I don't want to see him because I don't think he's a good player. He had a great season for Chelsea. Him and Cole Palmer had a good season for Chelsea. The rest of them, he was great at Palace. He's a really good number 8. He runs and runs and runs. He's exactly the sort of player that Postecoglou likes. I just don't think it will happen, or B, it would work just because the Chelsea-Tottenham thing, and he's super, super Mr. Chelsea. So I don't see that, and I don't particularly want it. It doesn't excite me as much. I love Eze.
He doesn't improve our squad as well, does he? Really, he doesn't improve our starting 11. Well. That's why
if we're looking at the bigger picture, and Ange said this a lot during the year, he said injuries are one thing. Like having backup for players and then performing well is one thing, but when you have 9 players out like we did, the level of training is lower than it should be. So players improving our first 11 is not just a player that can step into our first 11. It's players that can push our first 11 to be better than they currently are. And I don't want Conor Gallagher, but that sort of player would do that. He's obviously competitive. He's obviously a hard worker. He's obviously a high level footballer. There's no way he'd go to any club, whether he stays at Chelsea or goes somewhere else, and sits down and doesn't do anything or doesn't push the players around him. So I do think a player like that would improve our starting 11, even if they're not in the starting 11, because players you've got to have that competition, and training has got to be, tip top. And that's the difference between clubs that have world-class squads and clubs that have a few world-class players, because the competition is what keeps people on their toes. So I'm not for Gallagher, but that's not because I think he's a crap player. I think he's probably a very Ange type player because he runs more than anyone and he travels with the ball a lot and he never gives up. So those are qualities that Ange looks for. I like Eze, but I'd choose Elise over Eze if I had a choice.
I'd want both. If we could have Elise, Eze, and Mateta, that is the big thing that I'm doing this summer. Is
They can keep Mateta, man. They can keep Mateta.
fan,
That's a one-season guy, man. He's not going to come in for us.
Well, he plays well with those two. Do you know, we need Eze and Elise. If we can get Eze and Elise, mate, I'd be shaking my bum violently. No, do you know what?
Elise,
you take Elise over Eze.
Yeah, just because he can play more positions and his ceiling's a bit higher because he's 22 years old and he's and. But look, I'd be happy with either. I think we've been linked with Marcus Edwards. It's quite an interesting thing with our homegrown quota, and he's fast as hell. I don't know whether he is a Postecoglou player. I don't know. If we get him, it's because
not another Brennan Johnson in the skies.
I don't think so. No, I think it's quite different to Brennan. He's a different type of player to Brennan. He cuts in, he gets the number 10. Brennan is out and out winger. That's what Ange wants.
Yeah,
Edwards can pop up in the middle of it. I don't think it will happen, but it's interesting thing about our homegrown quota because we do have an issue there. You know, we do have a bit of an issue there. I don't know what striker we should go for. I would prefer Isak to Tony if I had a choice. I would probably, I'd love to be linked to legitimately someone like Neco Williams. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's super interesting. I also don't think many pundits or fans know exactly what Ange wants in that area. Again, I would not be surprised if he doesn't want a target number 9. I would, you know, I'm not surprised if he doesn't want to replace Harry Kane in that way. But I think it's going to be really interesting. We need backup fullbacks. Carl Walker-Peters is a shout.
I'll take him back. I love him.
He can play left and he can play right. I think it's less likely now that they came back up. I thought it was a potential decent deal if they didn't get promoted. But I think he's a really decent option in Postecoglou team. We obviously need another left-sided defender to be back up for Van der Ven. I think those are really difficult positions to fill with players that we think are quality when we all of us know that we don't ever want to see Mickey Van der Ven not in the first 11 at the moment.
Hell no.
You know, so that's a really difficult thing for a manager to sell and to manage a squad which allows us to bring in those sort of players. And we may not actually be at that level yet. We may not be at the level where a player of like Guardiola's standing comes and takes a risk of not starting every week. We might have to be honest about that. So we need to kind of build to that. That'd be my take on it. I'd love to have Elise. I'd love a link with Neco Williams. And I don't have a clue what number 6 would be getting in. And I think Postecoglou doesn't really want to differentiate. He said a couple of times, he's like, I want to get to a point where we're not talking about 8s and 6s. We're just talking about midfielders and they can play everywhere. That's what he wants. So I don't think we'll be seeing a battling number 6, a leg breaker, because that's not his style.
Even though I do like the fact that we were linked to that Atalanta number 6, Edison. I think he's a quality and he would make a big difference in our midfield. I mean, just look at him.
Maybe Bentancur, great season with Bents. Maybe in a flying side, in a flying Tottenham team around him, he could be an ideal number 6. Just that he's been playing when the rest of the team haven't been clicking.
Yeah,
but he's not. But Bentancur naturally isn't a number 6. I mean, out of all of the games he's played, he's only played 40 games as like a defensive midfielder. He's more, his output has been like over 140 games in his career as like a central midfielder in an attacking position, attacking minded.
But remember, I agree with you. He's done it quite a lot under Bielsa at Uruguay, simply because we see number 6s. We look at where they're positioned on the pitch and we think of them as defensive midfielders. But Postecoglou would never call his number 6 a defensive midfielder. No. When Skip plays there or when Højbjerg plays there, you'll find that they're in the opposition box more than the number 8s because they're making those runs. Yeah. So it's about how the system we're playing. And he plays number 6 under Bielsa. I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying it'd be interesting on a fully fit Bentancur with a balanced team around him. He could play. He could do a job in both. I think
that what we need is not a fixed number 6 like Barcelona had with Busquets, and he was like the pivotal, not a pivot because pivots are basketball terminology, but but he's like the holding, the one that the whole game rotates around. But I think that he's looking for more versatile players that, like, for example, and that creates confusion. So what you were saying, Arthur, is maybe he doesn't want to target number 9, because if you have a target number 9, it's so much easier to defend against, right? Because you know how to mark, right? But then if you have someone that's come like holding deep, and then suddenly, you know, does something that the defenders are not expecting, you can't. Well, you can defend it, but it's very, very much difficult to defend against, right? Like Kyogo at Celtic, so many times that since Ange's come in, I suppose that, and those that like football and like studying it, I suppose, or just, you know, having a 5-minute, look at how he used to play. Kyogo used to break the line. He used to come in from deep as like a false number 9 or as an attacking midfielder. Used to come in, break, and the balls would be pinging in, not even crossed. There would be, you know, grounded passes, grounded cutbacks, and he would be on that ball, and that was it. They didn't have a target.
Trying to do with his son. That's what he was trying to. He'd be trying to do with his son.
Exactly.
But we weren't having enough occasions where our
the output was lackluster.
To make the most of the son. And if he cracks the nut of Brennan Johnson and he cracks the nut of our left side, then Son could be amazing through the middle for that exact reason. You're absolutely right. And then there could be players out there, I'm sure, who can double up. I think Isaac holds up the ball very well.
I love it.
Target man.
But the thing, for example, in the Premier League, and I'm not going to compare Scotland to England because each beast has its own, has its own characteristics. But I think that you need aerial threat as well in the EPL, because whenever you have these low block defenses like we've seen this year, you need other output options. So when you can't get that grounded pass, when you can't get that cutback, you have to go high. You have to go aerial. Exactly. So someone like Kane that both defensively and offensively could offer that. We didn't have that this year.
No.
Yeah. So if you have a Gyökeres, if you have a Jimenez, if you have a Tony who is very, very versatile, despite his detractors, he can play deep, he can dribble, he can distribute, he can get in the box, he can score a goal out of nothing. He's very tricky, but he can score headed goals as well. He's an aerial threat. These kind of players that are versatile.
Could Richarlison do that? I'm not saying he can, but that's what we want from him, right? Because that's correct. That's what we want. That's what we want from him. When we've seen it in flashes. But I'd like to give him. I'm not saying we shouldn't get number 9, but I'd like to give him this season. But based on all the issues of last season, I'd love to see. I would just love. I love it.
I mean, it's a good question, Arthur, and I just think that, and I like to be fair with all the assessments, right? I've never been a fan of his. I didn't like him at Everton. There's something about it that I don't, sorry.
No, go on, Chris. I've always had faith in him. Is Zeus though?
Zeus has got question marks.
No, question mark. I don't have a question, but I never. Same as Chris is saying. Richarlison for 60 mil. Yeah, man. Like that when that deal happened, I was like, "What the heck are we doing?" Like that. He's not.
I think we overpaid 55 million for him. I think.
Yeah, like he cannot justify the price tag that that we bought for him. Like it just. Maybe 30 mil. I've been okay. He's doing well, but like he's not. I don't know. He's not a game changing kind of guy. We can definitely upgrade. It's not like the priority for me. Like I said, left wing and quote unquote specialist midfield defense, whatever. But Richarlison, we can upgrade.
It's the consistency for me. Sorry, Zeus, but I think it's the consistency. And he's been in England how many years now? 4 years or whatever it is, 5 years. And it's just the consistency. Yeah, however long he's been here. And this moniker that you're giving, Brazil's number 9. Well, Brazil isn't exactly amazing now, is it? But it hasn't been for quite a few years, and it hasn't done much. But I just think that he's too heavy. I'm not talking about weight. I just think that he's too. He doesn't. He just
there's no spring. There's no spring in his step, basically.
He hasn't got a spring. He hasn't even got a step.
He's got a soft. He's got his touch. Can really let him down. I agree with all those question marks. I do. It's more of a hopeful thing more than anything because I do see, Everton were a very different team to Tottenham in terms of his role at Everton. His role at Watford beforehand was very different. So I just think that I don't know. It was just that window that we saw during the season last year whether it was like 9 goals in 8 games, 8 goals in 9 games or whatever. and not just that, but doing the job that Andrew was asking him of. He was just a battler, working. It was just that window, and I was like, oh, we all know that players can have flashes, and what we want to see is it lasting longer. Same question, comes up for me is if he's had a full pre-season, if he's parked his issues, which he had, and he clearly had some personal issues, and he spoke about. I mean, it wasn't just the first revelation was revelation enough, but then afterwards he did a big old interview and spoke about having, suicidal thoughts and having psychiatry. This is not light stuff, and we all know you can't park that stuff when you go to work, whatever your job is. So if that is something that is lifted and that's something that has existed for a little while, I would love, for that reason alone, I'd love to see that window that we saw halfway through the season last year. I'd love to see whether that can grow to half a season or 2/3 of a season. If it can, we'll be happy about that. And I'm not saying it will, but I would like for that to happen. And I'm not completely ruling it out.
No, we can't knock him. We can't knock him. I mean, he's a Premier League player. He has been for quite a few years. Has he got it in him? I mean, yeah, because there has been those flashes. Yeah, he just needs consistency. Whether we like him or not, I'm just and I don't. As I said before, I don't like him, and Deji's face just says it all. But he just lacks something that we'd like to see. Right? It just doesn't have it for us. Doesn't do it for you. But yeah.
Sorry, another thing. Sorry to jump in, but another thing. If Richarlison is the one starting in the 9, that means Son has to play at the left, which I don't think is his best position, and takes us away from getting this star specialist dribbler left winger that I think Ange Ball needs. So.
I don't want to see Son in the number 9 next season. I'm not being funny.
That's where he scored most. What did he score? 17.
I don't want to see that.
He played a lot of games there, but then he scored. Did he score a hat trick against Newcastle from the left? Did he not score like 2 against or a hat trick against Burnley from the? He has scored from both positions. It's about the team you play against, right? If someone's got a dodgy right back, you want Son to be on them all day long. If people have got like very, very mobile centre halves that play a high line, he's gonna struggle. He's not gonna get the ball much. So
I prefer him at the 9, and more so than Richarlison, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, look, man. Then look, we're coming to the end. It's been an absolutely fantastic discussion tonight, but I just really want to quickly get 2 quick predictions in the next 3 minutes because I know people have to leave, and then Chris and I and Zeus, I think we should all answer this. I think the whole panel should answer this question from Kisameo Gunner. And I think Kisameo, that was a loaded question because you know what's coming from me. So I won't even need to answer that question. But I'll leave it to my learned friends to tell you what we think about our club and Arsenal next season. Quickly, Euros. Who's winning the Euros? And where is Spurs finishing next season? I no, we haven't seen anything, blah, blah, blah. Yes, and it will change, but still. Wishful thinking, what's the minimum for Postecoglou then, in your opinion? I'm going to start with Zeus, Arthur, Chris. Quickly, because I know Arthur's got to go.
Who's winning Euros?
And Zeus as well has got to go. Bloody hell. All right, let's go. Quickly. Euros and Spurs finishing. Go.
Euros.
Everyone in the chat, put yours as well. Who's winning the Euros?
I'm gonna go with France. Yes, this England's defense is dusty.
It's fully dusty.
Yeah,
fully.
And Spurs. I don't think we're gonna finish above Arsenal. I'm actually hoping Arsenal. This is crazy. I don't want City to win again, and I think the closest challengers are gonna be Arsenal. But yeah. But at the same time, I see Spurs winning the trophy, so kind of like soften that blow. So yeah, Spurs win a trophy. We won't finish ahead of Arsenal. We win a trophy, and France to win the Euros.
Cool. Love that prediction. Arthur.
Germany to win the Euros. Host nation. I think they're probably like 3rd favourites or something. Just can totally see that happening. I think they'll lose their first game and then they'll win it. And I think we'll finish above Arsenal this year.
My guy, my guy.
I think that the shift between Arsenal, not the season just gone, but last season and the season just gone, was a big step up, and I don't think they can make that step up again. And I think that step up meant that people actually, other teams hadn't figured them out. And I don't think there's going to be a massive shift in who they are for next season. And I think we're all going to be a little bit wiser to that. And I think their fans themselves will be less tolerant of dips because their expectations are higher. And, you know, we know what those sort of fans are like. So I think we could finish above them. And I think that means we'll have a good season. But I also think they might have a poor season, you know. So they could be going down to their 4th or 5th. So that's why I'm at.
Big up. Chris, go for it, baby.
I think I saw Germany the other day, but they were plagued with, you know, it wasn't their best team. And I didn't like them at all. They drew against Ukraine. But I think Germany have got a very good manager that I would like to have seen at Spurs with Nagelsmann. And they are the host nation as well. I just think that France are a more rounded product. So I'm going to go with France. And Spurs, I think, are slightly too far away from being an Arsenal challenger if we're going head-to-head with them. I think that they are too far down the road than what we would like to see. So, no, I don't think we will finish ahead of them, although I would like to. And I'm hopeful that Ange can turn up his second season magic and give us a better season and not go through what we've done, what we went through, this season with that horrible dip in, from mid to late season, which was awful. But I'm sorry, I can't see us ending up ahead of Arsenal. They're going to have a very bad season for us to be ahead of them. That's just an honest opinion. I mean, I can talk from here or I can talk from here, and I'm just talking from here, Yeah.
No, fair play, Chris. I mean, me quickly, just before you wrap up, I think France will probably win it. I just think they're just too damn good. If you look at that team, it's pretty much borderline Real Madrid. In terms of Spurs, I actually do think Spurs will finish above Arsenal. And the reason why is because I think Postecoglou would have learned from his mistakes. But also, I trust Postecoglou to bring in the players that we haven't mentioned because we don't know. The Van der Vens. I think he makes 3 or 4 Van der Ven-esque type signings that we've never heard of that can actually hit the ground running at our club. But also, I agree with Arthur. To finish second and win nothing is mentally and physically draining. And to do that twice, that is what we suffered from in the Champions League under Pochettino. We were physically and mentally drained, and Levy just didn't give Poch time for the boys to recharge. And I just can't see this Arsenal team mentally picking themselves up for another challenge, and I think they fall off. I really do. I really think they're in the can on this one, and don't be surprised if Arsenal do a Liverpool, mate, and find themselves like 5th. And it's not because they're a bad squad. I just think they're going to need to bring in more fresh blood. We saw Martinelli wasn't sourcing. Saka really, by his own standards, I mean, people tell me about GA, but look with your eyes, he wasn't sourcing. So I think there's a lot left to be decided. And Arsenal don't have a striker, and they're probably one of the most maddest teams I've ever seen in my life. Less likely to buy a striker than Spurs. I think Tottenham could do it. I think we can. I really do. Because I think Postecoglou is the real deal. But also because we don't finish above Arsenal because we're better than Arsenal. We finish above Arsenal because they just can't pick themselves up. Yeah. On that note, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Zeus. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you, everybody that's locked in, locked on. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. We're on our way to 2K. Please get on to my brother, Chris, Meta Football. Get on there, like and subscribe. Chris, have you got anything coming up? Arthur, you need to get your own bloody channel. Zeus, you need to get your own bloody channel. Sort this out. All right.
I am. I've got. I'm on THFC Tottenham Till I Die with Dermot, Phil, and Tequila tomorrow. So that's I think that's 8:00 UK. I think that's it, but around about the time. So I'm on there as a guest tomorrow. I've been invited on, so much appreciated. If anyone's watching, related to them, thank you very much for that, and that will be a blast. So if you want to get over there, and then I've got my own things, but personal issues are in the way for me to actually pin down dates. But I've got so many people waiting for me to get stuff out.
Yeah.
I just can't get it done because I'm waiting on dates and I'm waiting on personal issues to be sorted out. But there's stuff coming out. I just have to know when, but it'll get there. It'll get there.
Brilliant.
Very man.
Thanks, Chris. And get us on there and get us on the channel, mate. If you want us to do it, just drop me a message, man. Let's
Always.
get on because you're a big player in the game. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
you,
Good
guys.
night. I'll be on Never a
Yeah,
Foul literally in 2 minutes. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Guys.